big games on Saturday is Texas A&M at Arkansas. And on Thursday's show and on Friday's show, we're going to do all the normal preview stuff that we always do. And we're going to hit on this game from every angle. And I think it's a really interesting game. Top 25 matchup. We know what's at stake for Texas A&M. We know Arkansas beat them last year. So we'll do the traditional preview on Thursday or Friday's Aaron Torres Sports podcast. Why I bring it up, though, it is because I thought about something as I was kind of prepping, going through notes, thinking about this game earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, as I did my prep. Something struck me. Is this a matchup between maybe the most likable, I don't want to say likable because that implies my own emotion, but the most liked coach in college football, Sam Pittman, versus the least liked coach in college football, and Jimbo Fisher? Not saying that's how I personally feel, but watching from the outside, that is kind of the vibe I get. And I do think going into Jerry World on Saturday, it's almost a little bit of a good versus evil Arkansas versus Texas A&M. And so I'll be honest, right? I was thinking about this earlier, but I also got this idea. I want to give credit where it's due. Connor O'Gara, who writes for Saturday Down South, really popular college football website. I'm sure all of you have read it, listened to it. They have podcasts, YouTube, whatever. So a few days ago, Peter Burns from SEC Network put out a tweet, and he asked a very simple question. He said, what is the most likable college football program in the country right now? It can't be your favorite team. Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South responded with this tweet. I thought it was really smart. He said, it's Arkansas. Arkansas is America's team. They have no bitter rivals. They have the most likable coach in college football, an offensive style with modern concepts, but physical in a way that your dad will love, and they haven't won enough for you to hate them. And so while I disagree on some of it, I do agree on a lot of what Connor said, and something really struck me. Is Arkansas the most likable team in college football? And is Sam Pittman the most likable coach? Because I can't speak to the most likable team in college football. I do think Sam Pittman might just be college football's most likable coach. And it's funny because I was thinking about this, and I'm going to make a weird cross-sport analogy that a lot of you are probably going to sit there. When I start this, you're going to scratch your head. And then when I explain it, you're going to say, that Torres guy kind of makes sense on this one. But you know who Sam Pittman is right now? You're going to laugh. You're going to laugh. Don't laugh. Hold back that laughter. Sam Pittman, I'm going to say this. He is the Steph Curry of college football. You're thinking Steph Curry, skinny, athletic, NBA player. With Sam Pittman, former offensive line coach. What does that mean? Well, let me go ahead and explain why I believe that Sam Pittman is the Steph Curry of college football. So with Steph Curry, he is obviously an insanely talented player. But there are insanely talented players in basketball, football, whatever, that aren't just almost universally revered. And I've had my things with Steph Curry, but it really is, as time goes on, it's really hard not to like him. And I do think part of what makes Steph Curry so likable is he's like the most relatable superstar the NBA could possibly have. Don't know how many of you can relate to Shaq being 7'1", or LeBron James being 6'9" and ripped out of his mind at 37, 38 years old. Don't know how many of you can relate to Anthony Davis, 7 feet, and he doesn't even show up for work half the time, doesn't even pick up a basketball for 2 months in the offseason, or Kawhi, or Kevin Love, or Luka, or whoever. But Steph Curry, he's kind of relatable, right? He's short. He doesn't have the, physique of a professional athlete. Like if you just saw Steph Curry walking down the street and you didn't know who he was, NBA superstar would not immediately jump out. Not super strong, not super tall, not super athletic, went to a small school. We all know the story. Wasn't recruited by his father Dell's alma mater, Virginia Tech. They had no interest in him, had to go to the small school, was overlooked. And there is a very relatable quality to Steph Curry. There is a relatable quality in the sense that I think young kids can go to the backyard and say, I'm going to shoot those crazy off-balance threes like Steph Curry. I'm not going to grow to be 6'9" like LeBron James. I'm not going to grow to be 7'1" like Shaq. But I might be 6'2", and maybe I can be the next Steph Curry. Now, there's only one Steph Curry, young children. I don't mean to ruin your vibe here, but there is something very relatable to Steph Curry, and that doesn't even include off the court. The grandpa shoes that we all know about. The fact that his wife and his kids are very involved in his life. I say it all the time. When we talk about somebody's brand in sports, I think we all think about Gronk, party guy, whatever. Steph Curry has a brand too. It's wholesome family man. Good for him. That's who he is. But I think there's a very relatable quality about Steph Curry. And so I bring it up because I do think that Sam Pittman is the Steph Curry of college football. There is something very relatable about Sam Pittman as a head coach. Now, I don't know if kids are in the backyard, walking around with a headset wanting to be the next Sam Pittman, but there's something really relatable about him, right? First of all, big, offensive line coach, again, the physique. You see Steph Curry and you don't think of him as an NBA player. You probably see Sam Pittman. He doesn't have the build of a head coach of a major college football program. He looks like the guy that you can have beers with down at the bar after a hard day's work. He looks like the guy that's fixing your car. He looks like the guy that sits in the stands with you watching these games. And he's got that kind of unique background. Things weren't handed to him. It wasn't easy. He got his first major head coaching job at 59, 60 years old. He doesn't appear to be wanting to climb the ladder. It's funny, right? A few weeks ago, the Nebraska job opens up and his name gets mentioned in the mix. Sam Pittman has said, like, on the record, he said, I'm a terrible negotiator. My agent's going to be mad. But if everything goes well, if they'll have me at Arkansas, I want to retire here. He's not trying to sell you something. He's not trying to this. He's not trying to that. He's goofy. He says stuff at the podium. In so many ways, he's the anti-coach, right? First of all, the background. Again, Steph Curry, unique background, wasn't named a child prodigy at 15 years old, had to work for it. And I'm not saying there's one way is better than the other. But at the same time, Steph Curry had to work. Sam Pittman, 60 years old, did not get his first head coaching job. Think about most of the other coaches in college football. First of all, most of them just aren't relatable at all. But most of them feels like they're trying to sell you something, feels like they're insincere. They don't really answer questions at your press conferences. They make reporters feel dumb. Sometimes they make fans feel dumb. They think they act like they're better than you. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's the fact. And Sam Pittman is kind of the opposite of it. Came up, unique background, worked for it, has fun. That's the other thing too with Sam Pittman. You can tell that guy loves being the head coach at Arkansas, loves being the head coach in the SEC. And I think that again, he's the most maybe likable coach in college football. And I'll say this, I don't know if Arkansas is the most likable team, but they do play a very likable style as a team, right? Again, not everybody in college football can be Lincoln Riley's USC and just bring in a five-star quarterback and bring in a bunch of five-star receivers and put up 60 points a game. Not everybody can be Ohio State. Not everybody can be Alabama. Not everybody can be Georgia, even though they do it differently, where they just have these 6'7", 260-pound freaks running all over the field, making tackles, 5 yards in the backfield. But Arkansas, there's something very relatable about how they play, about the fact that their style is basically, we're just going to line up, we're going to run the ball at you, and it's on you to stop us. Good luck. We don't think you can do it. Their quarterback, KJ Jefferson, unique background there. He was a 4-star, but I looked it up before the show. He was like the 331st ranked player in college football. All offseason, all we hear about is Will Levis at Kentucky, is Spencer Rattler at South Carolina, is Stetson Bennett, is Bryce Young. And I'm not saying those guys don't deserve the acclaim, but have you seen KJ Jefferson lately? That guy's awesome, yet he's completely overlooked. And so I do think that Arkansas, again, I don't know if they are the most likable team in college football, but I think they're in the short conversation. Unless you're an LSU fan or a Missouri fan, I don't know how you can't like Arkansas. I don't know how you can't like a coach that's 60 years old and doesn't take himself too seriously and didn't get his big break until 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know how you can't like a quarterback who's been doubted for most of his career, who's never mentioned among the elite of the elite, even though he's completing 71% of his passes this year and has 1 million touchdowns. So I do think Arkansas is about the most likable team in college football. Then there's Texas A&M. And let me say this about Texas A&M, because we got a lot of A&M fans that listen to this show. It's nothing personal. I personally have no beef with Texas A&M. I like the growth of the program. I like the fact that there is maybe another program on the rise in the SEC. Listen, I love Nick Saban in Alabama. I'm getting kind of bored of watching him run through this league. And I like that there is a team and a fan base that want to compete and believe they are ready to compete with him at the highest level. App State aside. At the same time, though, I'm not talking about my personal opinion. I am talking about the public perception. And the public perception, I'll say this, I don't ever remember a program in college football going from nondescript, no strong opinions to absolutely hated, quite like Texas A&M over the last 6 months, right? I mean, Notre Dame, it's generational hate. Ohio State, it's generational hate. Alabama, you get tired of watching them win. Texas A&M out of nowhere just became a team that nobody likes. And to be clear, again, I don't get it, right? But Texas A&M, I think there's this perception. We know what they are accused of in recruiting. I've talked about it many times. I've said that there are very logical reasons why Texas A&M could sign the number one class in the country. They signed 12, 13 elite players from the Houston area where they always recruit well. They took advantage of some coaching turnover at places like LSU, Florida, Miami, Oklahoma, were able to get in on kids there that had already committed or were about to commit. And so I don't have any problem with what they're doing, but it's very clear, and I think Texas A&M fans would agree that other schools seem to have a problem with it. Nick Saban seems to have a problem with it. Lane Kiffin seems to have a problem with it, and it's very clear that college football fans have a problem with it as well. Again, in the same way that I don't know that Arkansas is the most hated program in college or the most liked program in college football, I can't definitively say Texas A&M is the most hated program in college football. But right now, I'd say they're in the short discussion, right? If you Notre Dame's kind of hard to hate when they're getting their brains beat in by Marshall. Ohio State, I don't know. I mean, I guess they're hated. Alabama, I guess they're hated. Seems like everybody is out on Texas A&M except for a select few people. I include myself. And then I would say, from the coaching perspective, isn't it kind of the same with Jimbo Fisher? It's amazing because there are certain guys that just for whatever reason, and I talk about them on this show all the time, they really do rub people the wrong way. It's kind of crazy, right? I talked about it on Tuesday's show. Brian Kelly, people just don't like him. Jim Harbaugh, people just don't like him. Whoever. Then there's the other guys that people love. Everybody always loved Coach O. Everybody always, people seem to like Brent Venables, right? Whatever. Everybody seems to hate Jimbo Fisher. I don't get it. I really don't. I was in the Rose Bowl the year that Jimbo Fisher won a national championship against Auburn. I saw him build Florida State. Florida State was bad when he took over. They were awesome kind of at his apex. Now, I understand the program fell off. I understand what's going on in Texas A&M, but there is something about Jimbo Fisher that people just do not like. I don't know if it's the way he talks. I don't know if it's the way he answers questions. I don't know if it's the way that he wasn't afraid to snap back at Nick Saban, but it is clear people don't like him. It's funny. I'll tell you a quick side story. Bracket Fanatics, who's doing our NFL Pick'em Challenge, I was talking to the guy who runs Bracket Fanatics the other day on the phone, and he said, I heard your show. I just can't stand that Jimbo guy. And he doesn't even like college football. So imagine being a Bama fan, a Texas fan, a Arkansas fan, whoever, a Georgia fan, an LSU fan. Jimbo gets under people's skin. Now he's kind of at that weird, like Jim Harbaugh before he won the Big Ten phase, where eventually, if he doesn't start winning, he's going to be not winning enough to hate. But right now, I would say if we're doing a power rankings of least liked coach in college football, Jimbo Fisher's probably number one. Not saying it's my personal opinion, just saying it in general. So I think it's a fascinating concept heading into Saturday, heading into Texas A&M, Arkansas. Is it possible we have the most liked team in college football and the least liked team? Is it possible we have the most liked coach and the least liked coach? Something to think about. Just something to think about as we head into Saturday.